Good evening and welcome back to Mystic Matters. We are the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce. Good evening, Tricia Walsh.
Good evening, Suzette.
Well,
happy Columbus Day
Happy
to you.
Columbus Day to you too. Is this a special weekend for you? I mean, I know you have a special birthday month. You had a special anniversary.
I am tired.
Celebrating anniversary and
Well,
birthdays.
and also just wrapping up Groton Fall Festival on
Absolutely.
Saturday. So
Great weekend
Yes.
as usual.
always.
So what's happening?
We are very busy planning for our annual dinner and silent auction, which will be held on Thursday, December 5th this year at the Mystic Marriott. And we are going with, it's our 77th anniversary.
Great theme. I'm excited.
So we have taken a play on James Bond 007 and changed it to 077 for their 77th anniversary. It's
Fantastic.
going to be, different types of things going on that will kind of allow for a little more interaction than the normal silent auction
Yes.
theme that we've kind of gone with in
Right.
the past. We find that people really like to attend these events as kind of almost like a Christmas party, a social event, and when you're all hovering around a table trying to write your number on a piece of paper to win, a gift certificate,
Right,
that's
right.
not really what we want. We want people to be enjoying themselves and interacting, and so all the information is on our website, mysticchamber.org. You can purchase tickets there as well, and there will definitely be a lot of excitement and fun that evening.
Yeah, and it always is anyways.
It is.
And I think, this annual dinner brings out a lot of friends of the community.
It
And
does.
it's a time for celebration, not only for the chamber, but also to see those people that are going into the holidays, work, especially small retail businesses, knowing that, there's a long stretch ahead of us. And so it sort of kicks off that celebration.
It does, and I have to say it's also kind of like once that ends, it's a little bit of a relief on the chamber part because then we get this kind of downtime through the holidays
Right.
that we're able to actually enjoy. So
Right. Well, this evening we've got a great friend of Mystic Matters, a great friend of the community, a great friend of all of ours, and I want to welcome back Kathleen O'Byrne, who represents the Community Coalition for Children so well, Kathleen. And I can't remember how many shows we've done together, but it's been a long time, and certainly every time you come back, it's just so enjoyable. But I will tell you, prior to the show, and it sort of was a conversation piece last night at dinner with my husband and I, because he said, so who do you and Tricia have on Mystic Matters? And so I kind of gave him the lowdown and some of our guests. And I said, well, interestingly enough, we are having back to the show Kathleen O'Byrne, and we're talking about teaching children to play. And he said, what do you mean? And when you close into past middle age, I guess, my father used to say, well, someday you'll be talking about all of these things that we brought around the dinner table. I said, Dad, we're not going to talk about these things. I said, you're so old. That's the older generation. Well, guess what? Here we are. And Kathleen, I guess it struck me because, to bring it up, it was so profound that my husband and I actually had a half an hour talking about this, and Tricia and I had at least 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. What are we teaching children to do?
We're not actually teaching children how to play.
Okay.
We're really looking to help teachers, educators, parents, community leaders to enable children to play. Different spin.
Yes.
Different spin. And actually not just kids. We'd kind of like to have as much fun as you have all the time as adults.
365 days a year. But it's a very interesting concept. And so you're teaching adults, basically. Or
yes,
enabling
though
adults.
we will talk about the fact that we're also going to have some middle schoolers and high schoolers
Okay.
as part of the program package, and we'll talk with them about how they can play. But basically our topic is unplugged play matters,
yes.
or unplugged play matters.
So
I mean,
you
you
don't
kind of
mean-
go with it either way.
Play Angry Birds on your cell phone.
That's right.
Or
That's
a
right.
computer game. You mean actually physical interaction of some sort. Play.
Personal
Yeah.
interaction. We also are really looking to have children be able to play unstructured. What has happened in the years since you and
Yes.
I were kids
Yes.
is that, and we were allowed to roam free and just
Right.
had to be home by dark, or
Oh, yeah.
there were rules in each household about when you better be reappearing, but we were free to go. And I've heard older women here in this, older than me, talk about getting on their bicycles after breakfast, and they had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with them and something to drink, and they were gone for the day. And the whole village kind of knew who they were, and
Sure.
so they were safe. You see, this is what has changed, is that at least parents perceive that children are not safe if they're off playing hither and yon. We had a ravine park right next door to our house in Arlington, Virginia, which was just heavenly. You could get lost running through the woods or looking for the tadpoles or smelling the skunk cabbage come up in the
Yes.
early
Yeah.
spring, or just knowing who lived in all of those funny places and strategies for catching the crayfish, but then learning to let him go back,
Right.
because if you took him home, somebody ate him in the bird bath.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
those sound like crazy things, but those are all really important lessons for kids. But today what has happened is that parents are frightened that something will happen to their children. They don't know their neighbors in a way like we used to. Moms are not at home sort of greasing the neighborhood, so to speak. There just is a whole lot more sense of isolation, and with that comes concerns. So children come home from school, and if they're home alone, then the rules are that they stay in the confines of that house.
Right. Which is sometimes a jail. you
Well,
know?
it could feel
So-
that way if you wanted to be outside or if you
Right.
wanted to be with your friends. So what we're really talking a whole lot about with Daryl Hammond is the fact that as you save play, he calls Kaboom his company, which is kind of a neat name.
Yeah.
He calls it a movement to save play. And as he builds playgrounds, and he's now been part of more than 16,000 different playgrounds. When I first wrote the bio on him, it was 2,000. And in the period of time, it has just morphed into something amazing. Partly because he's been able to be so entrepreneurial and charismatic, I think. And so people want to be a part of something that seems so American.
Right.
But he focuses on communities where people tend not to know each other, where there's a dearth of safe play area. And so he, and in this case we, as Community Coalition for Children, go into an area that has not yet had a major playground build and work with the people who live in that community to hear from them what it is that they would really like to have as part of the design. And as you hear what it is that they're looking for, a lot of these concerns about safety and visibility and maintenance and, well, who's going to be kind of keeping watch? And, well, maybe I could meet the other moms and we could sit and chat and get to know each other while the kids are playing over there, unstructured play. As that evolves, what really is happening is that you're building a community.
Yes.
And you're building leadership to move forward on any number of other issues. So something that looks very innocent, like building a playground, really will have a huge impact on the quality of life for people throughout the region, and rather specifically one particular area.
So Daryl Hammond's coming to our area.
Absolutely.
Right. And when is that?
He's coming to the Gard Art Center in New London on Monday, October 20th.
Okay. So coming up here.
And we're asking that folks actually come about 6:30. He's going to speak at 7. But we have gotten the Gard to agree that we can play in their lobby So
Wait a minute.
we are going to have
you-
ourselves a great time starting at 6:30.
You're going to play.
Yes, we are.
And what do you, you're not going to give this away, I can just
Oh,
tell.
oh, we just have hula hoops, and we have
Hula
balls,
hoops.
and we have sidewalk chalk, and we have light-up necklaces. Oh, we have just surprises galore.
You know, I just want to let everybody know right here that I was the hopscotch queen.
Say
Okay?
that twice.
I
That
know,
way.
I just tried hopscotch. You probably don't even know what hopscotch is. But, you know, you were talking about the chalk, and I just remember my father, you know, coming home with the big driveway, and he would look down, and there was all this artwork. Guess who had to hose it down? Though, and back then, I tell you, that chalk was hard to get off. But, you know,
I
after,
hope that
rain-
will not be true as we're cleaning
well,
up the garden.
well, I think chalk's a little bit different now, but I mean, you used to do those things. You were creative back then. I
Well,
mean,
and
you
your
had
parents
nothing.
let you do
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
I mean, he probably put on this act of,
Oh, we
oh
did.
my goodness,
Yes,
look at my
but-
driveway.
Right, he did. But, you know, that's very important. I think, I basically, from this conversation, it's changing the mindset of
And
parents.
so let me ask you, Suzette,
Yeah.
when you were hopscotching there,
Yes.
what were you learning?
Well, structure, to stay within the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think for me, who was a very, very active kid, to basically learn how to play with myself.
Yep.
You know,
Occupy yourself.
Occupy yourself. I didn't have to interact or constantly have my mother or father sort of babysit me. I also learned that I really loved being outdoors, because while I was doing that, you know, I could look up and there were the birds, and just the whole setting of my home. And you know what, I actually felt very safe. You know, as I'm speaking with you, I felt very safe because that's what was taught. My parents said, you're going to be okay, just get out there, you know, and seek the world. But I think for me, learning how to occupy myself, learning a little bit of structure, I needed that. I had to draw the lines, I had to stay within the lines, you know, because there was points if you hopscotched out of the lines. So there were a lot of things.
And did you
Kathleen.
do that with other kids sometimes so
I
that you were
did, yes,
competing?
because we were, well, that was it. That's why I won all the time. Always had to win. Yeah, because
So
once
you
we
were
started,
practicing.
I was practicing.
You
but
rascal.
just like when the kids, you had a basketball court. So when the other boys would hear my brother, just all you had to do
dribble
was
a bit.
dribble
huh?
a bit, and then kids would come. When the kids, yes, when I was doing my hopscotch, I saw the other little girls. They say playing hopscotch, they would come. What it did for my mother, though, she had to, you know, bake brownies or do something, so we'd have a little tree. But yeah, it was
Cool,
a
that
calling.
was
It was a calling for the other children.
And Tricia, how about you?
Well, when we were younger, we were forced to, this was elementary school, when we came home, we were allowed to put our things away, and then we were to be outside until dinner was ready.
Right.
And my mom, I think it was her time to nap, get a little break. But we would do, we used to put on plays. I remember that. And I would always, I'd be the director, the lead actress, you know.
Well, that
it's
doesn't surprise me.
Yes. But, you know, it was the neighborhood, and we had, you know, a set boundaries. We weren't supposed to go beyond this street or, you know, but it was a neighborhood of young children. So even if they were much younger than us, we'd still, you know, enlist them as some part of the play and things like that. And it's funny when you mentioned the crawdads and the creeks. I grew up in Arkansas, so that was we also that same thing. And when I tell my husband that, he's completely amazed.
Right, right.
But yeah,
So a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination going on.
absolutely. You know, always
And the
planning.
mixed age group, that's another really significant dynamic. I brought a book with me. It's Peter Gray's book called Free to Learn. And it's a new
Just
book,
hold that up a little
new
bit,
book
yeah.
out this year.
Free to learn.
Free to Learn, and he makes quite the push that kids need just plain unstructured time. Now, when we go by the playing fields, coming here to do our telecast, we see kids out very much in team practice. That's not the unstructured play
Right.
that Peter Gray is talking about. That's important too. But just absolutely unscheduled time
Yes.
where one follows whatever it is that intrigues you until it's over.
Right.
And then you kind of snap out of it as if, oh, I forgot I was right here, you know. To
Right.
get that involved in a play that you've made up or some kind of scenario that you're acting out, and to do that with a mixture of ages of kids teaches the older kids to remain playful longer, and it helps the younger kids to model. And they're safe within the context of the older kids who will tend not to let them do something that would be dangerous. So it's just a dynamic that, again, we don't see very much of.
Right.
Our kids tend to be segregated by teen age groups so that you're kind of homogenized
Right.
in that way. So it's not to say that one piece of that is bad, it's just finding the balance
Yes, that's the key,
in
Kathleen,
our
I
lives,
think.
really.
Right.
And for the older kids, I think immediately adults tend to think that there's this humongous amount of time being put in on video games and
Right.
computer interactions of one sort and another. Peter Gray's kind of interesting about that. It took me a little bit to think through, because certainly the myth is that the kids are spending inordinate amounts of time doing these electronic things. His contention is that the research is showing that if they have a safe place to be outside, they will self-monitor, that they will find that balance because intuitively they know that they need that other unstructured time, that other outdoor time, that fresh air time,
Oh,
that on
that's-
their feet stand up time. What tends to be done less of is watching television.
right.
So what you're really kind of trading off there is electronic
Right.
time. But the big if is, do they have safe places where they can be outside after school to just be with friends and just kind of have a good time playing casually? And I don't think as many of our teens have that, particularly with the number of them being bused to school and
Right.
extracurricular sports and activities after school that are structured. So I would argue with him a little bit that there is absolutely less time outside.
Yeah, yeah. So where did, you know, thinking about this, and I think probably Tricia was probably on the sort of the last generation that still could get out there and play. Where did this all start to, you know, can you pick a point in time? Was it the time that electronics and sort of this social media type of thing came into our lives? Is it because of the working mothers? I mean, is it, when did this start to unfold?
I really think it's a mix of all of those
Okay.
things. I think the busing for school, if you
Yeah.
think about Groton,
Yes.
very few kids actually walk to their elementary schools
Yeah.
just because of the nature of the locations
Okay.
and the attempted mix to integrate all of our schools
Right.
appropriately,
Right.
so that people are getting on a bus at a certain period of time, and at the end of school, they're back on that bus immediately. So then the question is, when they get off the bus at home, and they have to be met by an adult, then do they just disappear inside, or could those communities say, okay, after we've kind of had 20 minutes worth of catch up for the youngster to kind of deflate after school and have some cookies and milk or whatever, or fruit, or good things that Dr. Katz would recommend. Could there be an hour and a half of daylight still that the kids could just play slightly supervised but where the adults don't involve themselves in the actual activities. They're there on the periphery. For example, I know that Marion Galbraith, the mayor of the city of Groton, was on a big kick this past summer to have a lot of block parties.
Right.
And trying to get people out to the wonderful different places in the city, Birch Plain Creek and Eastern Point Beach and just all the places that you can be. But also to say, after dinner, sit outside on your front stoop and simply chat with your neighbors while the kids are playing hopscotch on the sidewalk in front.
Get to know your neighbor.
Try to reconstitute some of that simpler time instead of just as soon as dinner is over, and how many people even sit down to dinner together, just then turning on the television and that's the end of together time.
Right. Right.
So I think it takes imagination from a wonderful former teacher.
Right.
This is where her education background really plays in. And it takes a will of parents to say, you know, I can make a difference in the life of my kids. And it's never too early to start with that.
But they also make a difference. I think it mirrors back, Kathleen, to yourself. You know, it makes a difference in their lives. Because if
To see us play.
Exactly. If
Yes.
you start convincing yourself and living this sort of model, you become the better person.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if you're teaching this type of sort of play idea, and it's interesting, you know, when we were talking about it, you know, when you had to be home or whatever. I mean, there were rules, but there weren't these sort of
They weren't suffocating.
Exactly. I mean, our thing was just be home. We always had to have dinner together, so be home before your father gets home, so that you're all washed up and you had your homework done. And you know, a child like myself, I always had a little bit more homework. I paid attention in school, but you know, there were other things that I was interested in. But you know, there was that. But in the meantime, between that time after you had your snack out of school, my mother didn't see us until my father had to get. You had to be home before your father got home, so you could sit down and eat together. But where I was or what I was doing, I wasn't doing anything bad. I was playing in the neighborhood, doing something, picking the dandelions and trying to make a bouquet out of that, you know, and bringing it home. And I did do that. I used to take this little twine and make a big bouquet of dandelions, you know.
I think it's funny because I think the phrase, I just remember when I was younger, you know, you run across the street to your best friend's house and you knock on the door and you'd be like, can Jean come out and play? And I'm like, I don't think that people even say things like that anymore.
No.
Like, go knock on the door and actually ask, can they come out and play?
Right.
But you used to constantly say that.
Yes, you'd go. You would. That's what you would do. Can Jean come out and play? I mean, when was the last time a child did? I don't even.
Well, I think they would
remember
even
that.
text at this point. Can you hang out or
Right,
whatever?
right. They
even
sort of
at a
go
young
home,
age. Yeah.
and that's it. You know. So this is really interesting.
It's really a cultural shift, and it's not going to be easy, but it's an important work to do. And a favorite quote that Daryl Hammond uses a lot is that play is children's work.
Yeah.
It's the way they test out their abilities. It's the way they kind of hone their creativity. It's the way they figure out who they are. And if we kind of keep shielding them and structuring them everywhere, they don't get a chance to do that.
Kathleen, is it too late?
No.
I
No,
mean,
absolutely
well,
not.
I asked that question, and of course I was coming from these different angle because I see it is hard work. It's going to be hard work. Let's put it that way. And I still think, and thank you for these programs and for Daryl Hammond, because if we don't start now, what is that future going to be? What is 5 years, 10 years from now? Where are these children who are now sort of adults? You know, if you started younger,
They are.
Where is? And then of course they're going to raise their children, and it's going to be that domino effect. It's going to be a lifestyle that they're just following along the same pattern. So there's got to be that breakthrough, and I think
We
you're
think
doing
so.
a job for doing that. So let us know again, what day is this? Daryl Hammond's coming to the Guard, and what time?
He's coming Monday, October 20th, so a week from tonight. And we ask you to come at 6:30 and come play.
Come play the hula hoop.
Bring your chalk and show us how good you are in the hopscotch.
Well, Kathleen, you know what I'm going to do now is I'm going to
Go
practice
home and practice.
because I don't lose in hopscotch. Okay, I have to win in hopscotch. But the hula hoop, that was another hula hoop. Think about that. When was the last time? I haven't seen kids on a hula hoop, or even on their bicycles with the little basket in front. I was blessed. I grew up in downtown Mystic. I had to get on my bicycle, and at the time we didn't have mailboxes, so you had the post office.
Oh.
And then you had IGA, or I think it was IGA around the corner, and yes, it was. And you had to pick up your milk and put it in your basket and go home.
So you had responsibilities.
I had responsibilities, but I want to tell you something. I played along the way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you did too.
I definitely did.
Tricia. But Kathleen O'Byrne, thank you so much once again. This was a topic of conversation with my husband and I, so you know how important it is. And get out there this Monday, October 20th, to the Guard, and I promise you'll play. Tricia, thank you so much.
Thank you, Suzette.
We are the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce. Kathleen, thank you. Say hello to Mick.
Will do.
Good evening.